Anand Menon. Is there anything in that vindictively we were withheld membership? Or is withheld from us?
I think it's up to the European Union to decide what kind of access it grants other countries to its market. The one thing I would pick Lord Lilley up on, though, is this sort of is the issue about tariffs. It's absolutely true. The trade deal we have with the European Union frees us from the majority of tariffs on goods trades between us and the European Union. But what we've seen since Brexit is a significant underperformance in goods trade between us and the European Union. And that's because the real sort of problem we have here is that Brexit has meant a huge amount of additional paperwork, of checks. Trade is slower, trade is more expensive, and as a consequence, there's less of it. So it's not, I mean, tariffs is part of the story, but it's far from the whole story. And it's these non-tariff barriers that are really getting in the way of goods trade between us and the European Union.
What's nonsense? Sir Peter?
It's almost all nonsense. Everything he said. Trade across to Europe is now faster than it was before we left, because of other changes that have been made, so that's wonderful. Second, we have tariff-free trade on everything except where there is a substantial part of the value of the product isn't from the United Kingdom or Europe, it comes from outside. And then there are some arrangements. The statement that our exports to Europe have substantially underperformed is simply because Professor Anand, perhaps he doesn't understand trade statistics. All the things which were previously re-exports were counted as exports. Now they're counted much more accurately as re-exports. It makes no difference. It shows up as a big fall in our exports of Brazil nuts and pistachios because we used to import them and then re-export them. The same thing's happening, but they're no longer counted as exports. They're simply attributed to the country from which they already came.
Professor Anand, he's basically said you do not know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sort of, this is all sort of flashbacks to 2016 and some of these debates, I have to say. The fact of the matter is, if you talk to any big manufacturing group, talk to the automobile manufacturers, talk to Make UK, and what they will say is, the problem our members face at the moment is that compared to when we were in the European Union, we face a load of administrative hurdles that make it harder for us to trade with the European Union. You saw a few weeks ago the head of Marks and Spencer saying they'd hired warehouses in which to store the paperwork that Brexit was necessitating. So trade is different to how it was as a member state, and it's more difficult. And because it's more difficult and more expensive, then the amount of that trade is smaller than it would have been had we been in. One of the things we've seen is a significant number of smaller firms that used to export to the European Union no longer do because they simply can't deal with the costs and the hassle and the paperwork of doing so.